Axel, welcome.
Dandavat, Vishaka.
Dandavat, Dandavat. So, we are beginning Bhagavad Gita discussion group. Welcome, Anu Krishna. We've missed you too. Great to have you with us today. Have a nice turnout so far. But Kirtida Didi, she brought up a nice question. So maybe we can address that before we start with Bhagavad Gita. And Kirtida's asked about what is the meaning of realization, right? That was your, do you want to elaborate on that? Sorry, I think I cut you off earlier.
Sorry, is it so dark? Can you see me in so dark?
I can see you, yes, you look like a beautiful peach.
Because I have only an old iPad, you know, not, so it's so dark I can see, but I hope you can see. I wonder, realization, English word, in Norwegian, understanding, is that the same? Self-understanding, understanding self?
Yes, well, I would say that in English, the way that we mean that word is, let's say if we put it next to theoretical understanding and then actual understanding, that would be realization. So the difference between having it worked out in your head and actually being able to apply and practice it in your life. That would, that's how I would say generally that's how we would use that word realization. And in Sanskrit, there are these, and actually we have a chapter, and that's how it's rendered here, where there are these two helpful words, gyan and vigyan. So, and gyan is translated as knowledge, and then vigyan is realization. As I recall, let me check here. Yeah, it's chapter 7 in our edition here, Bhagavad Gita. Let me go there. That's right, Jnana Vijnana Yoga. This is the name of chapter 7 in our edition, Bhagavad Gita. And that's how it's translated, knowledge and realization. So, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, on this topic, Srila Sridhar Maharaj has made an interesting comment, saying that in the beginning, there must be proper conceptualization. And then from there, proper realization can develop, right? So when we're approaching these spiritual topics, we can't expect to immediately jump to realization. Of course, in some areas that may be possible, some things may be very intuitive. Our heart may be open to a sufficient degree that very quickly we can imbibe something, right? Maybe we're picking up from a previous life, right? So in some cases, in some areas, some aspects of our practicing life and embracing the teachings, there may be some instantaneous realization, right? But that won't be the case with everything, right? So in that case, for example, what is the nature of Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna's abode? We can't expect to have a realization of that right now, But what we can culture is proper conceptualization, right? Proper conceptualization. And from that, and in proper association and cultivating the proper mood of surrender, then realization may come, right? So, and it's very important. Actually, I'm happy you brought this up. It's very important. It's something I was speaking about earlier today, that it's really important that we develop proper conception through hearing, right? Because otherwise we can be misled by our emotion or sentiment, right? If we use this example of Goloka, our understanding of Goloka Vrindavan, we could have a cartoonish idea of what that means, right? What it means. And nowadays it's a little scary like, you know, as Krishna consciousness becomes more, I suppose I can't say mainstream, but to a certain extent, it feels like it's becoming a little mainstream. And that leaves it open to all kinds of strange twists, right? So for example, you know, like I see sometimes this strange thing, I probably shouldn't even say it out loud, but like Radha and Krishna, like people take the idea of Radha and Krishna, want to use that in their own lives in this world, right? Or they want to imitate some play of Radha and Krishna in their relationships, right? Like they appreciate Radha and Krishna, but what's their angle towards that, right? What's their approach towards that? In our case, we hold that as our highest ideal, and that's something that we want to worship, not something we want to imitate, right? So, you know, this is the thing, that we have so many ideas and emotions that we've collected from this world of our experience. But when it comes to these higher topics, we have to leave that aside and defer to higher vision, higher truth, right? So this is why to go on hearing and to cultivate proper conception, right? Through good association and through reading, hearing from spiritual experts, right? Otherwise, it can be very dangerous. We can end up living in our own imaginary world, you know, or as Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada has expressed, the mind's banana, eating the mind's bananas. I like that expression, right? Eating the mind's bananas. We don't want to eat the mind's bananas. We want to have actual experience. And that may mean waiting many lifetimes, right? Going on with, there's a really beautiful talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, where he's saying, you know, I want the Krishna who's living in the heart of my Guru Maharaj, right? I don't want the Krishna of my imagination. I don't want marketplace Krishna. Those were his exact words. I don't want marketplace Krishna, but I want the Krishna who's living in the heart of my Guru Maharaj. And if I have to wait millions of lifetimes for that, then that's fine. It doesn't matter, actually. But that I am on the path to my highest ideal, that I am on the path of truth, that is my happiness, right? That is my joy. So yes, it is so important to culture proper understanding, right? And it can be challenging for some persons, right? Because, you know, in many lines, there may be an emphasis on what you're feeling, right? I've had people ask me questions like that, you know, like, oh, tell me about your spiritual experiences. But we don't need to be shy to say, you know, I don't really know what the value is of my own spiritual experience. Of course, we may share something like about that in the proper time and place, but mostly I can say, like, whatever I've had may be real, may not be real. It's not completely reliable. But I know that the spiritual experiences I've heard that my guru has had, that my guru's guru has had, you know, that you know, great saints that I've heard about in the scriptures and from my teachers, that is reliable, that is real, right? So that can be challenging for some people, like, oh, it's not like you saw this golden light. No, it's not like you suddenly had, you know, this Kundalini awakening, or no. But rather we are worshiping, we are adoring those who we know have had actual experience. And of course, you know, everyone's experience is valid, but it's simply that there is gradation, right? There's such a thing as spiritual gradation. And so what experience I may have, or what experience the person having Kundalini awakening may have, those are all valid. But the divine God reveals himself in many different ways to many different people, right? But we are interested in that innermost expression of the divinity, the all-attractive divinity, sweet divinity, the original divinity, that is Sri Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? That is the expression of divinity that we're interested in, right? Nothing less than that. And we can't expect to have that in a cheap way or a quick way, right? But so we are worshiping those who do have that. That's our policy. And by their grace, then some drop of that may come to us. So yes, this isn't a get-rich-quick program. This is long-term investment program. Long-term investment over many lifetimes, right? Not just this lifetime, but many lifetimes. But that's okay, right? Because it is something of so much value, right? It is so valuable that it is worth waiting millions of years for, right? It is worth waiting for. So there's no disappointment. There's no disappointment. Our Gurudev made a nice expression once in regards to, dancing in kirtan, that he said, we are dancing with joy. Like we may not now be feeling the ecstasy, we may not be feeling divine ecstasy when we're chanting the holy name, right? But we're dancing and chanting with joy because of our prospect, right? Because of our inheritance that's waiting for us, right? Because one day we will get it, right? One day we will get it. One day it will come. And we're celebrating those who do have it also. Krishna consciousness is all about celebration, actually. It's a celebration. Really, this is what Krishna consciousness is about. And this is mentioned at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Nirmatsar, those who are free from envy, they can enter into this culture of Krishna consciousness, who are free from, and what does free from envy mean in its positive expression? It means to appreciate, means to celebrate. We want to celebrate others, right? We want to celebrate the Lord. We want to celebrate all who are beloved to the Lord. We want to celebrate the Lord's creation, the Lord's associates. It's a celebration, a joyful celebration, an appreciation. Right? This is Krishna consciousness. Well, those are my thoughts on your topic, Tida.
Thank you very much. So it's all about deepening our conception of self-realization, deepening our conception then.
Well, you see, another thing I'll add here is that self-realization, of course, self-realization is helpful. It's a good thing. But in the actual deepest conception of Krishna consciousness, self-realization is secondary. Self-realization will come as a side effect of Krishna realization. This is the actual principle of bhakti, right? Of course, there are different ways to approach. There are different ways. There are many roads that lead us to Krishna, right? There are many roads, and Bhagavad Gita is a nice example of that. So there are many roads that lead us to Krishna, and one road is through the path of self-realization, right? And there are many examples in the scriptures of great souls who approached Krishna through the path of self-realization. Shukadev Goswami is one of those, right? Shukadev Goswami, who is the orator of Srimad Bhagavatam, he was a self-realized soul, right? He was Brahma Bhuta, right? He was situated in Brahman realization, right? So Shukadev Goswami, he was so self-realized, he didn't need to wear clothes. Because he was so deeply situated in consciousness of Atma and Paramatma, right? He's living in the conception of soul, of spirit. I'm not this body. He doesn't even recognize the body. We hear he couldn't even distinguish between male and female because he's so self-realized, right? And then from that platform, when he heard about Krishna, he went directly there. He left behind his self-realization and he ran to Krishna. That is where real self-realization will lead us to that. Right, and today's topic is Bhagavad Gita, and in our, no, I think actually it wasn't in this meeting, it was in our, we had a Japan meeting, and we were discussing, this is a famous verse, you probably are familiar with this verse in chapter 18, it's 1864, is it, or 65? This Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, this verse, sorry, 54. 1854, for those who have your Bhagavad Gitas, this is well-known verse. This is describing the nature of the self-realized soul, or Brahma Bhuta, right? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktin labate padam. Now, this is an interesting verse to tie into our discussion here. Why? Because it's saying, it's describing the self-realized soul, and it's saying that this person will come to attain devotion from me. He said, that means they don't actually have devotion for me right now. But from this clean platform, they can transition. They will attain the supreme devotion, mad bhakti, devotion for me, Krishna is saying. So self-realization is definitely a very good foundation to have for Krishna consciousness, right? And I mentioned Shukadeva Goswami as an example of someone who approached Krishna like that. And there are others, the 4 Kumaras, right? However, it's not a prerequisite, which is a little bit of a revolutionary idea in some circles. Self-realization is not a prerequisite for Krishna consciousness. One does not have to be self-realized in order to become Krishna conscious. It can happen the other way around, right? Because Krishna consciousness is so Krishna mati, right? It is so high, so supreme, that if one can touch upon that central thing, everything will come behind it, right? Everything will follow. And then self-realization can become a side effect of devotion to Krishna, right? Of Krishna bhakti. This is how powerful it is. So attachment, and this also applies in an extended sense to the devotees of Krishna, right? To sadhu, Hari, Guru, and Vaishnava. One who has attachment actually for the Vaishnava, for the saints, for the devotees of the Lord, they are in the best position, right? So for one who is attached to Guru and Vaishnava, they can get everything through that. They will get everything through that. And there's a very nice verse. Well, there are many verses in the scriptures which are discussing this point, but one just I was looking at recently in Srimad Bhagavatam, Avrishmiti Krishna Pradara Vindayo. It's saying that through remembrance, actually it says it in quite a curious way, through the non-forgetfulness of Krishna, one will attain everything. And mentions first Sattvasya Shuddhim, purification. First will be purification of the consciousness, right? Paramatma Bhaktim, Jnana, Viraga, Yuktam, Virag, detachment, Gyan, knowledge and realization, Jnana, Vijnana, and then Paramatma Bhaktim and devotion. So through this central thing, remembrance of Krishna, devotion to Krishna, everything will come. Self-purification, self-realization, knowledge, realization, detachment from the mundane. So this is the actual principle of Krishna consciousness. And this is what faith is. This is Shraddha, right? Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sujita Nishtoy Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. This is the definition of Shraddha, faith, that is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is the firm conviction that by Krishna Bhakti, devotion to Krishna, Sarva Karma Krita Hoy, all activity will be fulfilled. All duty will be fulfilled. Everything will be fulfilled by that central thing, right? So it's a bit of a, it can be a little tricky, right? We can understand the principle, but then to apply it can be a little tricky because we're not quite here nor there. Right? It's not like we can say we have devotion to Krishna, nor do we have self-realization. So what do? We do a little bit of both, right? Oh, Gangalila's here. Dandavad.
Dandavad, Hare Krishna. I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, so happy you're here. I see
I'm
Tungavasa
happy
has a question too. So what do? We do a little bit of both, actually. Means that we do try to culture some self-realization, but we also understand. So like our sadhana also comes in here. Sadhana is our regulated practice, helps to keep us on track, right? We can't expect to just, burst out in divine love every morning. We don't want to wait for that. We don't want to depend on that, right? So, and then we're also going on with our program of hearing, having some regular program like hearing the scriptures, reading the scriptures, hearing from the saints, from the sadhus, hearing the message of our gurus. And in this way, this organic way, then gradually our conception will develop, right? So it's kind of going on side by side, some cultivation of Sambandha Gyan, we can also call it, right? True knowledge of the true self and the true nature of our environment. This is all connected with self-realization, right? There's a very nice verse, maybe it's in Srimad Bhagavatam, and it says, and this verse, actually, there's a funny story behind it. I heard our Gurudev tell that the verse is saying, first, one should conquer the mode of ignorance with the mode of passion. Then one should conquer the mode of passion with the mode of goodness, right? Then one must conquer the mode of goodness with Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, goodness pertaining to the Nirguna plane, the transcendental plane. And then at the conclusion of this verse, it says, or one can simply surrender to their guru and follow them with full faith, and they will get everything. Right. And our Gurudev, he told a very funny story about this verse that, he joined his Guru Maharaj's mission, 17-year-old boy, right? And we hear not all the other members of the Ma were jumping for joy about this, Oh, sorry, because his Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, adored him from the beginning, right? And after 1 week, Srila Sridhar Maharaj could recognize his qualities. And after 1 week, he mentions, if this boy can follow me, he'll be my successor in the future. And so, naturally, some other members of the Ma, they weren't too happy about that. Who's this young upstart coming to upstage us, right? They didn't like that. And so from the beginning, there was envy around him, our Gurudev. And he had to deal with many unpleasant things because of that. So there was this one incident, and our Gurudev also, our Gurudev wasn't a flatterer, let's say. Our Gurudev, he was his own person. and you know, he had his own, you know, he didn't necessarily listen to everyone just to please everyone, right? And so there was this one incident. Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave our Gurudev this one book. It's a shloka collection, Gaudiya Kantahar. Some of you may have that book. It's a very nice collection of verses that was made by a disciple of Saraswati Thakur, according to verses that Saraswati Thakur appreciated and used in his preaching. And it's a very helpful reference, especially for preaching. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave a copy of this to our Gurudev, and our Gurudev has this brilliant mind, and he memorized so many of those verses very quickly. Then there was this incident. One manager in the Math was chastising our Gurudev unfairly, you know, and just picking on him for every little thing. And, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And then one day our Gurudev, he quoted this one verse, you know, saying, you know, maybe I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that, but I'm serving my Guru Maharaj and I'll get everything through that. And he quoted that verse, right? If you follow your Guru with full faith, you'll get everything. And he quoted that verse as evidence, our Gurudev, you know, young 17-year-old, 18-year-old boy. And that devotee, he was very angry. And he went and complained to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And he said, what is this? Why did you give this book to this boy? This is dangerous. You know, now he's challenging me, you know. So this is the actual principle of Krishna consciousness, right? Although we may not be able to fully apply it at present, that through devotion, through our faith, through dedication, everything will come through that. We have a few questions, I think, in the chat. Tungarasa, what are the symptoms of self-realization? And Scarlett's asking the name. It's called Gaudiya Kantahar. I'll type it here. It's a very, very nice book. Kantahara. And it's a very systematic presentation. It's organized by subject matter. The nature of Guru, the nature of Krishna, nature of Srimad Bhagavatam, nature of the Vaishnava, nature of the Holy Dham, nature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's very, very nice, very helpful. Oh, and then Tungarasa is asking, what are the symptoms of self-realization? What are the symptoms of self-realization? Well, I would say, in a very simple sense, detachment from the mundane. That is one, you know, main characteristic. One will be well, that's also mentioned in the verse, right? Actually, we can just look at that verse for the answer. This Brahma, 1854, right? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na shochati na kankshati. Na shochati means they do not lament after anything in this world. Why? Because they know that they are soul, right? Everything in this world is temporary, comes and goes. The soul is eternal. Everything of this world is temporary. So why should we lament over what is temporary? Right? This whole concept of lamentation only arises when we're identifying with matter, right? That which is temporary. Once we connect with the plane of eternity, with soul, then lamentation's irrelevant because there's no limitation, right? Everything is unlimited, everything is infinite, everything is eternal, so there's no need to lament, right? And it's an interesting word, this shochati, which is referring to lamentation. It is the same word as Shudra. It's the same root, you know, the word Shudra, which is the name for the lowest class in the Varnashrama system. right? The social system of ancient Vedic India, right? And so what does it actually mean to be a Shudra? What does that mean to be the lowest member of the social class? That they are very much in bodily consciousness. That is what it means, right? The highest class is non-enviousness one of these symptoms? Depends how realized. How realized. We'll come and discuss that more. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the word Shudra, right? What does it mean to be a Shudra? By nature, not just your birth, but your nature, means that one's very, oh yeah, so the Brahmin, highest member of this social order, the highest class, the Brahmin's nature is that they are connected with Brahman, with spirit, with the plane of the absolute. They're detached from the real Brahman, detached from the mundane, not a fake Brahman, but a real Brahman, not a business card Brahman. They exist, believe me, but a real Brahman by nature means that they are connected with the absolute, they're culturing the absolute, right? Spirit, plane of spirit. And a Shudra, conversely, they are very engrossed in matter. So therefore, for such a person, it's helpful to be engaged in physical labor, and then to do so in a way that is productive and helpful for themselves and society, to channel that nature in a positive way, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing. Just has to be channeled appropriately, right? So, but so this is the nature of the Shudra, that they're very absorbed in bodily consciousness, physical plane, physical consciousness. So naturally, there's a greater tendency for lamentation. So that word Shudra means that, like one who laments, something like that, the literal meaning. Because when we are fixed in bodily consciousness, we will be very prone to lamentation because we are afraid, right? We have our beloved family members and friends. Oh, we love them. We're having so much joy with them, but they will leave us soon because we're fixed in that bodily consciousness. But if we are living in the plane of spirit, we'll see, oh, everyone's eternal. Everyone is eternal. We're just changing the dress here. We're just changing the dress. Of course, such consciousness is very far from myself, but this is the fact. So they will not lament, right? Na shochati and na kankshati. They will not hanker after anything of this world. Again, because it is all temporary, mundane. I'm spirit, right? The one who is self-realized, they're also sometimes described as Atmarama. Atmarama means one who's tasting the bliss within. Right, there's bliss within the soul inherently, Sat Chit Ananda, right? Joyful by nature. Joyful by nature. So there's already bliss within the soul. Of course, it is also meant, if we put that in context, we can say that it is mentioned that the bliss that one derives from their own self is very insignificant compared to what is enjoyed in connection with Krishna, who is the source, who is the embodiment of joy, the fountainhead of all joy. But that's another discussion. So that's another, right? Prasanatma, right? Joyful, prasanna, they're joyful, the self-realized soul. So Brahma Bhuta prasanna shochati na kankshati. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. This is another point mentioned here about the nature of the enlightened soul. That they see all beings equally, right? Pandita samadarshina, that's another line in Bhagavad Gita expressing. They see everyone equally. The great king on the throne, or the big rock star in the concert hall, and a bum on the street, right? Or a dog on the street, the same. They're all spirit, right? They don't have any type of bias or prejudice like that. That is another characteristic of the enlightened soul. So Tungarasa's, she added, is non-enviousness. Yes, I would say for an actual self-realized soul, naturally, because they're tasting bliss within their own self, because they're connected with eternity, with infinite. So I would say yes, they're detached from ego. What causes envy? Ahankara, right? The false ego. So if one is free from the ahankara, then they will naturally be non-envious, right? However, it is an interesting question. Why? Because there are different levels of sadhus, right? And this is actually mentioned, our Gurudev kind of joked on this point. In this verse, in the second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, which I just mentioned, where this phrase near Matsar, actually, I'm really happy you brought up this point. It specifically mentions near Matsaranam Satam, the sadhus who are non-envious, they will be able to appreciate this. So what is that indicating? That there are some sadhus who are not free from envy. Only the non-envious sadhus will be able to appreciate the principle of Krishna consciousness. It's an interesting point, isn't it? There are different levels of sadhus, right? And it's also a funny thing, but like if you read Mahabharata, for example, like it's especially if you read the unabridged edition, right? But even if you do read the abridged edition, there's enough examples of it. The amount of curse throwing that goes on, it just boggles the minds. Like there's so many of these powerful rishis. You just, you look at them the wrong way and they throw you a curse, right? I remember that was Janardhan Maharaj gave me a copy. It's the original Mahabharata is unbelievably long. I don't remember how many hundreds of thousands of verses it is, but you get lost by how many stories within stories within stories within stories there are. But a large portion of that is comprised of rishis throwing curses. There are persons who through their penance, through their austerity, meditation, they've accumulated so much power, but they're not free from envy, right? And another interesting point that comes in here is Trinada Pisunishena, right? How difficult is that? To practice these Vaishnava principles of humility, tolerance, and respect. It's not easy, right? So you may have a very great, powerful rishi through their yoga and austerity and meditation. They've attained all these siddhis. Of course, nowadays, such a thing as I would say is extremely rare in this age. The age of Kali is not supporting all of this. But then but they're not free from the ahankara. They're not free from the false ego. Then you may have a very humble beggar on the street with this nature of humility, tolerance, and respect. Right? So it is an interesting point. And I see Gangalila has her hand raised. I'd love to hear from you, Gangalila. I was regretting last week I didn't try and pull something from you because you always have some nice insight to share.
Oh, I don't know about that. But what comes up to me is I sometimes don't know how to put it in words, but what's coming through is like what's the difference between really following my guru, because I came to the conclusion that self-inquiry is extremely important for my sadhana. Like I have to actually keep looking at myself. Where am I really? Like, what am I really doing here? What kind of quality did I, like whatever, chant around? Was I, yeah, we talk about like, oh, not being envious, having symptoms, but part of it is I need self-inquiry, correct? Because I don't live with my guru. I don't have somebody saying like, oh, how did you do just that? What was that? I don't have anybody really breathing down my neck in my daily life. None of us really do we? Because our gurus, I mean, we're not living in an ashram. We don't have that, Yeah, we don't have that constant attention of someone else. So basically, what is my part? How much self-inquiry is healthy, and how much self-inquiry is like also getting lost in like me this and me that, blah.
Well, let's put it like this. What is the self-inquiry for? Who is the beneficiary of that? Let's put it like that. This is the way in which Lashita Maharaj has phrased it. Who is the beneficiary of our chanting? Who is the beneficiary of our introspection? Who is the beneficiary of our hearing? Right? What is our end? What is our object? Is it our own, superiority, or is it our own gain in this world in some way? No, ultimately, all we want is to offer ourselves to our guru and to be used as an instrument of the Lord, Guru and Vaishnava, right? There's a cleansing process that's going on, right? Once we've connected with the holy name, once we've connected with the Lord, with Guru, with Vaishnava, there's a cleansing that's automatically affected, and we're cooperating with that. We're cooperating with the bathing that's going on, right? And they've also asked us to do that, right? They've asked us to chant our japa. So why do we chant our japa? Because we want to become a great, powerful sage, because we want to, enter Brahman, we want to enter the oneness. No, we're chanting our japa because our guru asked us to. They want us to, because they think it will be good for us. So we're making everything an offering, our introspection, our self-realization, our daily sadhana, our chanting, even our daily exercise, our cooking. We'll try to make everything as an offering. So it's all about the standpoint, isn't it? It's all about the standpoint. And we can also say that, we may be in different circumstances at different times, but if we're holding in our heart the aspiration to have association, to be in good association, then that's a good thing. To be able to hold that aspiration in our heart. I mean, like your own case, I see how you have so much enthusiasm in going to the Govinda Mela, for example, right? And I see how much enthusiasm you have for joining these online sanghas. And not only this, I see you join others, Madhusudana Maharaj and others, That's sangha, right? That's sadhu sangha. So how much enthusiasm do you have for that? Right? So we all may face different circumstances which don't allow for that at all times, but we hold that aspiration in our heart. And when it's possible, we take the opportunity, right? And then in the meantime, a lot of Krishna consciousness is about waiting. We're waiting for the drop of mercy, right? The chatak bird, right? Rupa Goswami has this beautiful poetry about the chatak bird, right? Virachaya mayi dandam dina bandhu dayamba, right? The chatak bird, we hear, it's always waiting for the pure rainwater that will come from above, right? It will never go. There may be plentiful water on the ground, but the chatak bird will never take any drop of water from the ground. The chatak bird is always waiting with its beak upraised for some fresh drops of falling rainwater from the beautiful rain cloud. And then at the same time, right, stuyate chatakena, that chatak bird is always singing the glories of the rain cloud, even though the rain cloud is not always giving rain. Right? And sometimes the rain cloud may give too much rain. Sometimes it may give no rain, but stuyate chatakena, that chatak bird is always singing the glories, always praising that rain cloud and waiting for the drops of mercy coming from that rain cloud. So a lot of Krishna consciousness is playing the waiting game, right? and I think you weren't here in the beginning, but we were discussing this in the beginning, that we don't want anything too quickly or too cheaply in Krishna consciousness, right? We don't want to force something that's not there. We don't want to jump the gun. We don't want to artificially attain anything. We don't want to imitate anything, right? So we need to do what's real for us in our practicing life, right? And that may mean living in different circumstances at different times, right? But we're maintaining that spirit of the Chatabur, that we're waiting. We're always waiting for those drops of.
It's interesting for me I believe I've been lifelong extremely impatient, and I've never really cultivated a proper waiting, because when I'm thinking of myself as waiting, I'm thinking of myself, well, meanwhile, might as well just get this done and do that, just kind of run around. So it's like can you speak more about like what kind of quality of waiting there is? Because how we cannot, just raise our beak to the heavens, hope a drop will fall, because I'll wither before the drop comes. Nay, we do also do our little ant existence on the side. It's just not the main thing. Like, like doing this and having to go here and
Welcome, Jayadev. So happy to have you with us. Dhanavad. We missed you. And also Ananda Srupani and Seva Rupa have tuned in. Welcome. You know what, Gangalila? It's a funny thing. But I think that this is simply how our mundane consciousness is wired. Like, how do we assess what is valuable by what we have in our hands in front of us, right? That's mundane conditioning, right? So we need to enter into more subtle conception of what is valuable, right? It's like here's one example, and this is what was so wonderful about living in the proximity of our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, for so many years. It's like every day there would be something that would blow your mind, just in little interactions, in little phrases, and little responses that he had day to day. It would just like shake up your world. But like, for example, there was this one occasion someone asked our Gurudev about there was a particular book they wanted to read, and there are different translations of that book available. It's a Bengali book, a few hundred years old. Chaitanya Bhagavat is the book. And so this person was asking our Gurudev, there are so many editions of this book available on the market. We don't have one of our own from our temple. So Gurudev, please tell me which ones you recommend. And then our Gurudev recommended one particular edition. And this was his reasoning. He said, this other edition printed by this person, it will have more ego. That was what our Gurudev said. It will have, if he looks, like if I look at a book, I'm looking at the cover, I'm going to look at the quality of the translation, right? How accurate it is, or how pleasing to my sensibilities. But our Gurudev is not looking at that. Our Gurudev is looking at the consciousness of the person behind it. So subtle. Right? They have more ego. Maybe that was even a better translation. Maybe it was more attractive, and maybe it was more accurate. But our Gurudev wasn't thinking about that. He was considering things from a more subtle level. How is this going to affect your consciousness in a more subtle level, right? There's more ego there. So then I recommend this other edition, right? And so when he would say things like that, then there were certain things he would say sometimes that would just make you realize how far you have to go, right? I'm looking at things in a completely different way. I'm looking at things from an objective, external position. but we need to enter into a deeper, more subtle appreciation for the nature of reality, right? So like we were discussing earlier, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, our Gurudev, he was saying, you know, I'm interested in real Krishna, right? Not the Krishna that you can buy from the marketplace, but I'm interested in real Krishna. I'm interested in the Krishna that's living in the heart of my guru. And he said, and if I have to wait for thousands of lifetimes for that, then that is fine. And he said, it doesn't matter. And then he said, because the fact that I am on the path to the highest truth, that is my treasure. That is my wealth. I don't need something in my hand right now because I'm appreciating the subtlety, the value of this in the deepest sense, right? I'm appreciating the value of this so much that I'm willing to wait millions of lifetimes to attain it. So how deep and how subtle is his conception of reality, right? Where is he living that he can say something like that and live like that? You know, so they're living in the plane of consciousness, these great souls. They're not looking at things in the physical sense. So I would say that what can help us is keeping things in perspective. Remembering what's the end goal of this? What's the long game? We're playing the long game, right? Playing a short game and playing a long game are two very different things, right? Packing for a weekend trip, weekend getaway, and packing to move house for the rest of your life, those are two very different things, right? So we have, and that can be hard to do moment by moment, day by day. Keep that bigger picture in mind. You know, it's like another thing, and I can say it's something I'm dealing with now, like the difference between recovering from an acute illness and chronic illness, right? I can see some heads nodding there. Two very different things, right? If you say you just had a flu, it could have been pretty serious, but it's an acute illness. You can rest in bed a few days and it's over. But if you have a chronic illness, it can take you years to recover. It can take years to recover.
Or
And
lifetimes for the soul, for the disease of the soul.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. So we have to think, we have a chronic illness, a misconception. It requires a certain type of treatment. And a part of that is patience. Serious degree of patience. And I mean, I'm like going through healing of chronic illnesses now. It can be very frustrating. It's like, I just want to get back on my feet and do everything that I used to do. But it's like, no, sorry. You can't approach it like that. And if you try and force it, you can spoil all your progress, right? So we have to think like that. We have a chronic disease of mundane existence. And it requires, you know, day by day treatment. Day by day, baby steps in healing, right? So we have to keep that bigger picture in mind, right? Keep that bigger picture in mind. And that this could take many lifetimes. So yes, patience, right? And this reminds us of Rupa Goswami's verse where he describes these 6 qualities that are helpful. Utsaha nishchaya darya tat karma pravartanat sango tyagat satovrite shadbir bhakti prasidyati. Utsaha means enthusiasm, right? Because we have some sight of the goal, because we have good friends around us, because we're hearing the wonderful truth, that we have enthusiasm, we have hope, we have optimism. We're connected to a plane of mercy. We are not alone. So there are so many things to celebrate. We know some wonderful people. So there are a lot of things to be optimistic about, a lot of things to be enthusiastic about. So utsaha, enthusiasm. That is the first quality mentioned. Nishchaya means to have some confidence, to have conviction in the words of our guru, the words of the saints, and the fact that we're going to get this, we're getting there. Have conviction, confidence in the path and the teachings. Daryat, this is the one we're discussing. Darya means patience or determination, perseverance. Why? Because it's the long game. It's a long road. It's a long path. We have to plan for that, a long treatment plan. So we need to prepare day by day for the next few lifetimes. We have to think like that. But here's the thing. If we have good company, right? If we're going on with the practices, it's a joyful thing, right? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj has that beautiful expression, why worry about the result when the process is so nice? To be able to chant the holy name, to be able to have good company, good association, that is a wonderful thing, a sweet thing. Okay, Rasananda Prabhu, thank you for joining. See you next time. And we have also some comments here from Marie. And Scarlett is asking, which was the one? Oh, for Chaitanya Bhagavat, she wants to know. It was the one by Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Maharaj. Yeah, Bhakti Vaibhava Puri Maharaj. But it's a little complicated because the same translator who did that one did another one, which includes the Bengali in it. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. If you want to have more details, you could send me a message, but maybe that's enough for you to find it. Learning by hearing, healing by hearing. Okay. So Darya, patience, perseverance, determination to go on day by day, right? So it's like you gotta have the right supplies around you. You gotta have your daily exercises. You gotta have your daily medicine. You gotta avoid certain things that are going to exacerbate the condition, right? The whole deal, right? It's a chronic illness. So utsaha, nishchaya, darya, tat tat karma, pravartana. This is the fourth quality mentioned by Rupa Goswami. Tat tat karma pravartana is referring to following all the practices that are helpful, right? So the chanting, the hearing, the good association, and so on. Everything that's helpful, all those practices to go on with that. Tat tat karma, sangotyagat means to give up negative association, bad company that's holding you back, that's holding you down. And then Sangocha Gatsatoverte, to take good association, to follow the path, the practices, advices of the saintly persons, and to keep their company. Right? So these are the 6 characteristics that have been given to us that are helpful for our practicing life. And yes, and to go back to what I was beginning to say earlier, to keep things in perspective, then I wanted to add there, to start our day by checking in with the absolute version, right? In other words, what is the perspective of the great souls, right? In other words, reading some of their words, reading the scripture, hearing from saintly persons, what is their angle on things? Beginning our day with that is very helpful, I would say. To hear the words of our guru, to hear the words of the scripture. That, like, for example, I like to try and start my day with reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And when I do that, I feel like everything gets adjusted. And suddenly so many things that I thought were big problems, they seem far away. Everything gets put into perspective. So, and that's something that we got to regularly do, right? Because outside forces can be very strong. So we need to keep checking in with that day by day. If we can start our day with 15 minutes of that, close our day with 15 minutes of that, just that little amount of time can make a huge difference, right? And I know you do that already. So just go on what you're already doing and be patient and be hopeful. That is a perfect life. You're already living a perfect life. Let's see, let me change our view here so we can all see each other better. It was so lovely to be here in your company, all of you wonderful souls. Jayadev, so happy to have you again. Please share some words of wisdom. We missed you.
It's just wonderful to be here, and yeah, so happy to see your glowing, shining face. Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here. Yeah.
Okay, and you have a friend here.
Dear friend from lifetimes. This is Willow Devi.
Welcome, Willow.
Very wonderful devotee, very special soul.
Oh,
I've been telling her she's got to meet you.
great to see your smile, Willow.
Thank you. Thank you for your class.
Well, does anyone in our group today want to share any final words before we close? We're just about at our time. And oh, Scarlett, so happy that you can join. We're just happy to have your presence here. Okay, well, maybe we'll close here for today. I like doing these spontaneous kind of meetings. I know the plan was Bhagavad Gita, but then we went different directions. Kind of like, that's just kind of my style. So grateful to all of you for your good association, and special thanks to Gang Leela for bringing up such a nice topic. And also Kirtida began with a very nice topic. Thank you, Marie, for helping with hosting. Thank you, all of you, for being so beautiful. Jai Shri Guru Deva ki Jai. All the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Jai Gaur Premanande. Haribo. Have a beautiful week. See you all next time. Thank you for joining Divishari Didi. It's an honor.
Dandavat pranams, darling.
Dandavat.